Welcome, everyone. We are so glad you're here for our Media Specialist Cadre. We have Kim Davik from Teaching Books here to show us all things teaching books, and she has promised me she's got an extra special surprise of something brand new today. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Kim.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. And like Lisa said, today we're going to do an overview of teaching books and then show you some of our newest features that should support the work that you're doing in your libraries and then supporting your work with teachers as well. So first thing I want to point out is you have access to teaching books. Everyone in your district does. So families, students, you, all librarians, all teachers, every employee has access through your Palm Beach County School District license. You'll notice that I am welcomed in as you by name, and you know that that's a screen you should see when you sign in through Clever. You'll notice as educators, professionals as well, you'll see your name in the upper left-hand corner. That is important because you have access to tools and resources within your license that are not available to your students. Your students all sign in and show that Palm Beach School District up in the top again also because they have anonymous access. We do not collect any student data. So you can search for any title, author, or keyword for resources that support the work that the books and authors that you're working with. So if I were to search for Esperanza Rising, for instance, and I start searching Esperanza, you'll notice what happens is titles that have the word Esperanza in it and any authors or illustrators will pop up. So I can select, we have resources in Spanish as well, so that's why you see it 2 times. But I select Esperanza Rising, and now all the resources that we have for that title will come up, and there are 40 of them. So you have the title, and we have the resources. Now, what happens if you don't have the title? So we want to talk a little bit about both. You can still use all of the resources at Teaching Books to support that work because sometimes we want to talk about things like character development or setting or the beginning of a story or pieces like that. So here we have a Google preview that you can see on the left-hand side. So we'll have a component of the book, and it looks like I missed it again. I'm never quick enough to find how many pages there are, but we scroll down and we start seeing the beginning of that book. So we have enough for our readers to determine as another reader's advisory piece, whether or not that's a book they might want to read. It also allows us to have conversation about dialogue or setting or characters, etc., like I said before. So that is found underneath the cover on the left-hand side. We'll also have resources, and there are a few featured here. We have an annotation at the top, compiled by the Cooperative Children's Book Center, University of Wisconsin-Madison, for their publication each year, CCBC Choices. And then anytime you see the words Meet the Author for either movie or recording, those are original Teaching Books resources that you won't find anywhere else. And so, for instance, we interviewed Pam Munoz-Ryan in her home, her studio, and she talked about writing. We also recorded her talking about her writing Esperanza Rising, and she gives information about that. You can listen if we need to show that to our students in another language. Dutch came up first. So here we can still hear her speaking in English, but we can see the text in another language.
Hello, I'm Pam Munoz-Ryan, the author of Esperanza Rising. I'm going to share how I came to write the book and then read a short excerpt to you.
So we hear that backstory.
We
hear that backstory, and then we also very often we'll hear the author reading a bit. So we have another fluency model, which is very important. Our readers often hear us reading to them, but we also can hear that author speaking directly to our students. Here is going to be one of those first tools that are available for you as professionals. So on any page where you see the share arrow. So here, if I were to share this page, I would have the Meet the Author recording. And so if you use the sharing tools and not the URL at the top of the screen, if you use the sharing tools, the recipient will have immediate access. They do not have to sign in. So you can take the URL, You can make bookmarks with this resource with a QR code, a link. You can make label sheets to have this resource directly if you have multiple copies in your book room. You can make a shelf talker, and you can have Pam Munoz-Ryan talking about why she wrote Esperanza Rising on your shelf. So you have, with our sharing tools, and if you happen to have your phone, you could scan the QR code and you'd see that you would go directly to that resource. You wouldn't have to sign in, even though you have the ease of access through Clever. This just goes right to that resource. So I want to go back. If I were back on the book page, and I shared this page, my recipient would have immediate access to all 40 resources. So they would have the movie, they'd have the recording, they would have the 8 author interviews, the 18 book guides, activities, and lessons, the 3 book readings. They'd have a vocabulary list. We partner with vocabulary.com, and so they would have that. If I wanted just to make label sheets of the vocabulary list, I could make label sheets. And then my recipient, my students would have immediate access, paperless access to the vocabulary list that we have with words, phrases, definitions ready to go for you. So those are some of the possibilities. So searching on teaching books to find resources by book, any book, pre-K-12, the trade books, we will have most of what you're looking for. If you don't, we want to know that. And if you want to search for an author, so let's say you're doing an author study and we say we want Kate DiCamillo. I know how to say her name because she did a name pronunciation for us. So I can pull up that page, and this will be the perfect question for you. So if you have your Google Classroom, I pull up my resources for Kate DiCamillo, and I want to share all of them because I want my students to be able to choose one of the interviews, listen to an interview or read an interview, whichever format you want them to have. And then if I wanted to put that into Google Classroom, I would select Google Classroom, and then I could put this whole page right into my Google Classroom. I'd share which class and put it right in. So that's how you can also share to Google Classroom. You can also, I'll go back to that sharing button, and then you can put it on social media. You can pop it into a calendar item if you know you wanted to use a certain resource on a particular day and you just wanted to go right to it, you would have it right in your calendar as well. Okay, so that is book, author. You can search for a subject. If I am working with these resources and I want to start then and I'm not really quite sure. So searching is if you know what you're looking for. I also can put my cursor in the search bar and use my library scanner, my barcode scanner. I can scan the ISBN of a book and the resources will pull up for me. The same if this camera tool right here, if my device has a camera, I can open the camera and use the camera for the ISBN and the resources will pull up. So that's how both your scanner, your library scanner, and your camera will work. We're not quite sure what we're looking for. We can use browse. And I love this part because we can look by all collections. So I can start by a grade level, a curricular area search, a genre search, a cultural area, perhaps year published or the format of the resource or a resource type or a special collection. I can start my search that way by one of these. So if I were saying I wanted, let's just choose 1.5, and now we have resources for almost 22,000 titles. So now you could go ahead, you chose grade band, but maybe you wanted nonfiction. And then maybe you also wanted titles that had won an award. So it needed to win an award for you to want to take a look at it for what you're doing. And now I've narrowed from that 20-some thousand. I still have 18,000 titles that are nonfiction, 1st through 5th. They've won an award. If I wanted now and I wanted to say, well, she said that Teaching Books is the resources, but I think I remember her saying at one point that sometimes there are also complete book readings. And so if I go to book readings and I look at those complete book readings, I've narrowed it pretty much, but you see I still have 39. And so here I've narrowed, and these titles will have a reading of a complete book or poem. So if I want to go to The Undefeated by Kwame Alexander, open that up. It's going to open up now because I asked for complete book readings, and I have a complete video reading by the author Kwame Alexander. Okay. And if I wanted to share that resource, I just want to share the complete book reading, I use my arrow in that card. If I wanted to share all of the resources for Undefeated, all 51, I use the sharing tool here. I always say, you know, when I taught 5th grade, I probably could have shared a page. When I taught 3rd grade, I needed to share a resource. They would have been like me on Pinterest, all over the place, anywhere but where I wanted them. Okay? Questions there?
April?
I didn't get where the two sections. I see an arrow that says share this page, and where's the other share option?
Perfect, April. That's a great question. So on this page, when it's over on the left-hand side, it's going to share the entire page. When I was in the book readings, do you see where the arrow is right here for the
Okay, thank you. Okay, now I see.
Yep. Anytime you're on any of these cards for a particular, like I want to share this interview, I can share it from this card. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. And now I want to go back to browse because this is the ta-da moment that I don't know about sometimes until I get here. So if I want to see all of the titles that Teaching Books has resources for, I can select See All Books. It takes a second, and I didn't look yet today in my other session that I did, so now I'm not sure how many. It was on a different topic. And there are resources for almost 72,000 titles. So that's why, and they are trade books. So not if you use a reading program, not the books like the leveled books that go along, but trade books. Now I can open up by grade band and you can see the breakdown. So if I wanted to see how many were pre-K 2, 1st through 5th, 4th through 8th, or 7-12, I can see that here. Okay. The other lovely thing that I want to go back to do is then that's when I'm going to use these powerful tools on the left-hand side to narrow. So now I want, I'm going to choose 4-8 this time. I'm going to narrow by a cultural area. And maybe this time I would like something under the disability experience, and I'm going to pick and choose. And I start narrowing to find those resources that support the work that I'm doing. So the sharing tool is that first really powerful tool that you have as a professional. The second one is adding to lists. And so that one is anytime you see this plus. So here I could add multiple titles based on what I've started narrowing here. I also can anytime on any book add to a reading list for myself. So let's say that I'm going to choose multiple titles, and I'm going to choose Wonder, El Defo. I'm going to choose the first 4 or 5 here. And I'm going to add these to a reading list. So these are going to be added to a title. The first thing it's going to ask me is, do I want to add it to another list that I already have? Or am I creating a new list? And this is going to be a new list. This is 4 through 8, oops, not capital, 4 through 8 featured list. I'm going to add these to my list. I want to view this list now. This is a list I've created, and it has 6 titles with 188 resources. So if I share this list, the recipient has resources for all of the resources for these 6 books. So again, immediate access, no sign-in required. So you could have your readers do something with this. I also want to show you, you leave Teaching Books today, you come back tomorrow. Where do you find the list that you've created? Underneath your welcome, your name. Here you're going to find your reading lists. You'll see your Palm Beach lists that you have. You'll see your Florida award-winning lists. And then you'll see your lists that you've created for yourself. So under Palm Beach and Florida, everyone sees those who signs in. You also can search your Florida list just by searching Florida in the title. And your list, then you can share those with anyone anytime you choose, either from the sharing button or opening it up and sharing that way. Okay. So sharing and those lists are two really powerful. So if you want to look at your read aloud lists and give students something that they could work on there, all of those are possibilities. There's so much here that I'm just going to give you a couple more highlights before I show you something brand new today. So under for students, we had so many people saying, is teaching books for students also? And yes, so there are a few components here that they can dive into and you can take a peek at. Under for educators are some really powerful tools for literacy and standard connections, a diverse books toolkit, book list and analysis collection that we've talked about before. And today I want to talk a little bit more about virtual teaching ideas. So in this section, you'll have some resources about ways that you can share teaching books. So if let's choose elementary this time. We also have, so if you're using Bitmoji libraries and classrooms, there are some starting places. You know, a lot of people are using them. And so we just used our sharing tools then to pop resources right in. I'm gonna pop down 2 screens as soon as it shows up on the left. So we could open up one of these. It tells you how to do it on the first screen, but here's a sample. And if you touch on any of these titles, then you would have a resource from teaching books. So all you need to do is make a copy of it for yourself, delete out what you don't want, tweak around with it. But there are some virtual bulletin boards. There are all sorts of different Bitmoji possibilities for you to explore. Those are under virtual teaching ideas. I also want to show you, there are also resources. So I'll pull up intermediate. If you are supporting, I'll tell you how it came about, and then I'll let you probably go off in 5 directions like I did. So we started some monthly timely topics. And this happened because we heard from librarians that many of them were supporting paraprofessionals. And so there was no longer a librarian in every building in some situations. Or they'd have some volunteers come in. Or I suggested, because I would have loved this as a classroom teacher, because sometimes if my librarian had a substitute, and if sometimes that substitute would get pulled if somebody else became ill during the day. And so if I would have had something, my students were counting on having library that day, right? They wanted to go to the library and meet with a librarian. And so if I would have had something, I wouldn't have been as wonderful. I already know that. But if I would have had something that she would have liked, or she would have had prepared, that would have been spectacular. So these are prepared by both libraries on the team, and by librarians and teachers for their versatility, and just some ideas, again, to get you started. The same thing, you can share these. So you want to open up November, you can open that up and send it to someone. If I wanted to share this page, though, I could share this button and they would have both November and December. I can also take a look at some of the others. There are some ready-to-use activities, some resources if you're writing newsletters for supporting English language learners or supporting other professionals, conversation support for Black Lives Matter, and social emotional learning are here. So you can share an individual section, you can see it all, and there are just some ideas that would be a great support for newsletters, for sending to your colleagues. Those are all here under virtual teaching ideas. Are there any questions so far?
April?
I have 2 questions. I don't know if I'm backing up too far, but earlier you said you could scan the ISBN and resources will pop up. if I'm sitting by one of my scanners, I scan an ISBN, do I have to have teaching books open, or where does it pop up?
So let me show you. Let's see if somebody took my scanner. Excuse me. Looks like somebody borrowed my scanner. Hang on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, April. Somebody borrowed it. So if I have my cursor in this window. So yes, I do have to have teaching books open.
Okay.
It's going to pull up the page. And so I would have my cursor here. I would scan the ISBN. The ISBN would pop up instead of the title, but you get the same search. You know, if I would have scanned the ISBN for Wonder, then it would pull up the number, and then all of a sudden it would flip over and you would see this page.
Okay, thank you. That's what I needed to know. And then the other thing is, you said that you could share a list to Google Classroom. So I have a list. Right from that list, there's the share arrow, because I haven't developed lists yet, but.
Okay, so I'm going to pull open a list. I'm just going to choose, the Sunshine Young Readers Award. So here it is. And I choose share.
That's it. Okay.
And then I scroll down to Google Classroom and I select Google Classroom.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And so now it's going to ask me which class, and then I go on from there.
Got it. Okay. I just didn't see that icon with
I didn't probably scroll down enough. And, you know, that's a really good point. So thank you, April. So we have both the link, and then these are printables, and then these are digital platforms. And then the only time, you notice how the shelf talker doesn't pull up here, that's because the whole thing doesn't talk. So the only time that you're going to see a shelf talker is on a name pronunciation, something that would speak. And that's when the shelf talkers would pull up. Okay. Today, and I don't think it's going to show, because if I move this screen over, do you see another screen underneath, or you just see nothing?
You see nothing, but if you stop sharing and share your other screen, it will work.
So today, I'm going to just put in, brand new today, we now have a Chrome extension. And so super powerful for your library, right? Your library computers, or even if you have, you can download the extension to integrate teaching books to your computers. And so let me stop sharing. You can see me for a second. And now I'm going to pull this up, and I'm going to get rid of this so that the ta-da happens. Okay. And now I'm going to share again. We're so happy, like we were all cheering today. So I am going to share a window and the Google. So if you're using Chrome, I could pop in my search bar, the one and only Bob. I could search friends. I could search astronauts. And when I do that search, take just a second, and now you have resources from teaching books that pull right up. And so you'll have immediately for your readers, yes, NASA comes up first, thank goodness. Sometimes when you do a search, who knows what you get, right? But here now, they could find out more about Almost Astronauts. They can find out about the mark, depending on what title they're interested in. So if I open Almost Astronaut, if I select it, I go right into teaching books, and I have resources for Almost Astronauts, 13 Women Who Dared to Dream. So you can hear Tanya Lee Stone talking about all that backstory, about how, yes, women were more capable of being astronauts, but no, NASA said. So it's a lovely piece to see. And if I go back then to that extension, I don't know if it's going to ask me, it's not going to know who I am here. So I'd have to sign back in. But if I go back and search Chrome, it tells me exactly what to do for that extension to get that and download those on your computers. Okay, questions about that? We're really excited about it, just because when I am working with my readers, I want them to see resources for authors and and books, right? So if I search, how about we search Chris, why do I always choose a long name? Christopher Paul Curtis. I pull up an author and we have information for him. And now we have resources for some of his titles come up. And I tried friends earlier and books about friendship came up for teaching books. So it was really nice. Questions? I'm going to stop presenting and get back to the other page just in case I need to show that other page.
Does it take a while for the extension to load? Because I just click. Oh,
just a couple seconds is what I found. Did it load for you?
No. I mean, it looked like it loaded, but it's grayed out.
Did you download it?
It says my only option is to remove from Chrome, so it's been added to my extensions.
Okay, I would remove it and try to add it again.
Okay.
And see, and if you have any more difficulty, we all tried it today and no one had difficulty, but if you have more difficulty, please let me know, April.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I went over a lot, so I do want to make sure that I go back and pull up. Hang on, let me get the screen the right size. There we go. I want to go back to teaching books and then show you the help section. So here, if you would like, under video tutorials, we have, first of all, just ask Lisa and I would do another session. So I'm happy to come to a staff meeting or you have your department meeting or a team meeting. I'm happy to do that. But there is a 3-minute introduction and then there are a few tutorials on how to use teaching, how do you create that list? How do you guys don't need to worry about your educator login because you come in through Clever, but how do I share? How did she say to do that? And then we also have an archive of webinars that we've done before, but we're happy to create anything for you and frankly honored to do that. Do you mind just sharing thoughts or favorites or wonderings?
So I'm loving those virtual teaching ideas. I think those are phenomenal. And I think it's going to be a huge help to some of our classroom teachers who are teaching both in person and virtually, because it's just, we struggle to find the materials to share in both ways. And I think this is really going to help them. I saw Betty just popped in that she loves the extension.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Between that and Britannica, you've got what you want kids to look for. The other thing that I want to show you too is if you go under, like I have lessons, so you can create custom lessons that we can talk about another day, but it won't show up until you have some. But if you go to your newsletters, you also, right now, mine are all no because I have about 57 accounts and I don't want to get these newsletters 57 times every month. But Bookmarked is a beautiful newsletter that has all sorts of great ideas that comes once a month. Virtual teaching ideas, you can find them on our site, but if you want to be notified when they're updated, just select that you want virtual teaching ideas. An update is, you certainly can know about how to manage your license, but this would be more for Lisa. And then you can subscribe to any of our blogs and just hit submit for the newsletters and then subscribe to the blog down here. And then it tells you, but that gives you notice when all these things go in. You can also, though, go to the archive and find, looks like I need to add October. For both of these, they haven't been updated. But you can find that archive of the old ones too, if you just remember where they are. But sometimes it's nice to get that reminder. You choose. We wanted to have it both places. So no matter what you wanted, you had what you needed. And I want to thank you. It's 3 o'clock right on the dot for you. And I want to thank you for your time today. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask Lisa or email me. It's Kim, KYM, @teachingbooks.net. And I can hang here for a second. I don't want to take more time than I'm given. But if you have a question, I'm happy to answer those.
Any last questions? All right.
Thank you so much, everyone. And I hope you have a
Thank
lovely
you for
day.
joining us. We really appreciate your time, Kim, and for coming and sharing and teaching. It's such a powerful tool. Every time you come, I learn something new.
Oh, good. Well, maybe not next time, because next time's in just a half hour. So thank you, everybody. You have a lovely day. Be safe, and bye-bye.